on TikTok, and we are now officially live on the Red Button Play app, otherwise known as YouTube. So, I want to welcome everybody to our next episode of Fictional. This is not a Spawn Point Sessions. We do not have a creator spotlight. Instead, it's just me and my co-host here, Delta.
Doing the jazz hands.
Hey, yeah, man. Jazz hands get the jobs done.
Mm.
So, today, guys, Delta had some pretty interesting things to say about this game that just came out, and I think a lot of people know that Avowed was the game that just came out, and we've been playing it. I think Delta has some pretty positive things to say. I would say I'm kind of in the middle of the road, so here we go. These are our thoughts on Avowed and miscellaneous other things that we may talk about.
I guess I'm kind of I don't know. I've got some constructive criticisms as well.
Good.
I would say I'm definitely fanboying at the time. I will say that. The game is 100% doing like when you first started, you'll notice it's just gorgeous, right? And I'm playing on Xbox. It's probably one of the best looking games I've seen on Xbox on my Series X. Which is huge because typically I don't give a shit about graphics or anything like that, but this has been a very good looking game. It definitely did the beautiful corner thing that a lot of game development does, where the first, like the tutorial or like the first couple hours are like the best looking part of it because it's got so much polish, because like that's the hook, right? That's the, reviewers and like if a player's like really trying to get sold on it, not to say that the rest of the game looks bad in any way, because it does look good, but there's just such a fantastic level of polish on that.
Yeah, they really, and I think they were able to achieve that because they focused, instead of doing like massive open worlds where you kind of have to copy and paste stuff, they have these big open areas you can go in. Like even the first area, like I still haven't fully explored that.
It's
You know
huge.
what I mean?
Yeah, the map's
pretty
very big.
But
Yeah.
it's not like Skyrim level size, but that allows you though to like hand place things that give it that more artistic, higher artistic value when you're playing
And
the
it's
game
not
and
and it's
exploring
not trying to load. There's not a bunch of stuff in the background that's loading either, like doing that zone
Exactly.
style thing. So I will say, I mean, that does. I'm sure that piques a lot of people's concerns with, because a lot of people disliked that about Outer Worlds, about like one, the length of the game, but two, that it felt very linear and guided.
hmm
And I will say it does have that. I think it was the latest Sonic game that coined the whole open zone term.
hmm
It does technically have that, but the zones are huge.
They're
Like they're
massive. Yeah, they're pretty
they're
big.
very big. It actually, I mean, it fits a lot like Pillars of Eternity did, except if the maps that they used were much bigger. So
hmm
I'm in the second area now. I've put shit at least 12
If you're
hours into it
listening
already.
on TikTok in the chat, we are talking about Avowed. I guess I could have put a graphic up. I do apologize that I didn't do that on the TikTok side. My bad, y'all. Hold on. I got y'all. We are talking about Avowed.
Avowed, yeah.
I guess we'll
Uh,
do. Yeah, we'll do this one. Do we have a? Okay, yeah, that's it. But yeah, I'll say like so as far as like gameplay though goes on it, I have been having a fun time with the dual wielding with the pistols. I think
mhm.
with the flintlocks. I think that's really fun. I feel more engaged in that than I do when I'm doing melee, which is really strange for me because normally I just like to run in there and hit stuff.
Mhm.
So I've been having a
Yeah.
lot of fun
the-
doing that. I think in first person, I will say the melee animations are really good in first person. Um, Doing the third person, which is primarily how I like to play my games, like
mhm.
it's not as engaging. I still have fun,
Yeah,
but it kind
it
of feels
definitely
like
sorry, go
a
ahead.
2011, like
Mhm.
2011, like RPG action RPG is kind of how it feels in third person.
Yeah, it doesn't. It definitely feels like it was meant to be first person.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, yeah, the animations are all terrific. Especially like because I'm doing a dual wielding of the pistol and the wand.
Mm-hmm.
That all feels great. It looks great. I will say, occasionally my character's arms feel a little too long when I carry guns. Like
They do
I
kind
don't
of
know what
stretch
it
it.
is. but like there's something about the angle where it just looks a little long, and I think it's because the character when you sprint, the gun is held like up at a vertical angle, like, but when they walk, it's just held straight out. Like there's no bending of the arms. It's like they've got locked elbows, like sticking straight out.
What's cool though is if you're using the pistol with just one arm, like in your main hand or something, you can hold the left trigger, and then he does like the badass thing they used to in the colonial time. Yeah,
which fits, and it reloads faster too, which actually fits how Pillars of Eternity worked, because in like a traditional D&D style, there are benefits, and I mean KOTOR did it as well. There are benefits to using a single one-handed weapon with nothing else.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of bonus, like, so the pistol, you dual wield it, you get something to do in the meantime while it's reloading. But if you use just one, you reload faster, you can aim more precisely, and that, I mean, it feels really nice. I want to try the Arquebus at some time.
I actually picked one up, and I equipped it, but then I had to get off the game, so I never got to use it. But I have one.
I picked a couple up, but I've been so sold on this build that I've been doing so far. This sort of like I've been calling it vicious glockery. I'll give credit to my buddy
vicious
Robert.
Glockery.
Yeah, coming up with that. It's
cool.
I just love it. No, it's like I said before. Man, I was gonna say Avada Kedavra hits different when it's backed up by buckshot. You know
what I mean? Like that's crazy.
But it is buttery smooth too. The gameplay, it feels so good. Like I wasn't expecting mantling, like parkour type stuff. That happens really quickly. The movement, the sliding, the jumping, it all feels really good. The only real critique I have on that regard is that like the dodging is great when you're in combat, being able to like if you're holding left or back, you just dodge, or left, right, or back, you dodge in that direction. But I have thrown myself off of. I've thrown myself off of roofs so many fucking times like that, though.
And then you just take.
And I really wish. I just want the option to do the double tap thing, where it's like, oh, I double tap in a direction and go. Like, I want to have that as like a quality of life like toggle.
Right, especially if you're not using a weapon where you can block. Like I on the main character that I play as, I'm going like a paladin route, so he does have like a spell book, but like that's his like. You switch to that, and then he'll cast his protective spell and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when I'm fighting like melee, I use the spear and I use a shield. So I also just got the parry perk, and so I don't have to dodge as much now because I can just parry something, you know. And you know, they get an awesome finisher attack, which are pretty cool. I do like those; they're fun.
Yeah, and I'm really, really thrilled at how they've managed the spells in this as well, because they did the same thing that they made it as translatable from Pillars as they did, which was always really cool. It works like Baldur's Gate, where it's like you get a grimoire or a tome that has spells that you don't know, and then you can spend money to learn those spells. So in this one, you get a grimoire, you can just cast the spells that are in it, but you can also, when you get ability points, you can, if you have a grimoire that's got it, you can spend points to permanently learn that and be able to cast it without that at all. And I really like that. It's just, I mean, I'm not even using spells right now, aside from like just the wand, but I have a spell book in my offhand because all of the spells have environmental interaction, which is just really fucking cool. Like when I learned I could make ice platforms in the water, that was a game changer.
Yeah,
like, I was trying to throw myself across this gap, and then I had this tooltip, which was like, oh, when you use ice on the water, it makes platforms. I'm like, fucking what? That's really cool.
Like on the RPG aspect of Avowed, like it hits all the major things you need out of an RPG. Like
it really does.
It like I think if they, you know, and I you know me, I like the new direction. I'm more of an action RPG fan than I am like a CCRPG. But you know, I love my CCRPGs too. I think, but like you said, they did a great job at translating kind of what that would look like in a more action styled RPG, and they did good. I just think, like you said, the game was meant to only be first person. So if you play it in first person, then a lot of the Obsidian jank you don't notice. But when you zoom it out, it's like yeah.
I've only used third person a couple of times. I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks, but I mean, I was like that with Elder Scrolls as well.
Yeah.
There are some third person.
It felt very 2011, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some games that do it well, but it's temporary. So, like in Destiny, whenever you would use like a sword or pick up like an objective that you would carry, it would pull into third person. and it looked fine then. Because I mean, that's the thing with first person is used a lot to. It presents like a really pretty picture from the character's perspective, but it allows for a bunch of weird shit to happen in the background that you're not aware of. You know, like sometimes some VFX are coming from like inside the character's chest, but you don't know because like you only see that what you would see as a normal human being.
Exactly.
So having it in third person, it disables that like the smoke and mirrors, and you have to like actually show the character doing it, which is way more expensive and difficult to maintain.
Exactly. I mean, definitely from a developer point, I completely understand.
Yeah. Sure.
You know me, I don't mind either way. Like animations don't always sell me on games. Like I'll sit here and I'm playing Mountain Blade. Like if we're talking like attacking animations, all it is this, and I play that in third person. Like, I
mean, hey, as long as it's fun, I don't care what it looks like. That's the core of it, right?
Exactly.
But I will say, like, there have been one of my favorite things in games is when I have a critique and it's resolved later in the game. So, like, when I played Star Wars Outlaws, which I'll get crucified for it, I loved Star Wars Outlaws. I thought it was easily the most Star Wars game I've ever played, and I've replayed both KOTORs for 20 years, once a year. And this Star Wars Outlaws, regardless of what you thought of it, like this was the most Star Wars game I've ever played. It just hit the vibe perfectly. But one of my things was I was like, man, it kind of sucks that there's only like 3 syndicates. I really kind of want I want there to be more because you know I'm exploring several planets. And the second you get off the first planet, there's another syndicate that shows up.
Oh wow!
And I was like, okay, there's 4 now. That's plenty, you know, because 3 felt a little shallow. But there's the 4th one that you just come across, which is the Ishiga clan, which was really cool to see. But then the best example I can think of is in God of War, when you get the Blades of Chaos, the new God of War. You get the Blades of Chaos, and I thought I was towards the end of the game when I got the Blades. I was like, oh, I'm going to get like a rage mode that I can go and like whip around. No, it made a point of pulling up the character tree, scooting everything off to the side, and then putting this whole new tree of Chaos Blade abilities and shit there. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much more game. And that is peak right there. I hate it when
it's amazing. It's amazing when you like first start playing a game, or even if you've been playing it for a while, and you just come back to it after a while, and you can see how much care and how much time the developers put into adding these new things. I know. I remember I was talking to you and PJ about the indie creator for Fade that I'm trying to get in contact with.
Yeah.
When his game first came out to where it is now, it's a massive. This man's done so many things in such a short period of time too. Like it's a pretty impressive
pitch. Yeah, I was looking at the Kickstarter for it.
I played his like early access, like just released it.
It's like first chapter stuff, right?
Yeah, I played that, and it was before it even was called Fade. The first chapter, it was just Fade. And I had a blast playing it then. I'm just wondering when he's going to do controller support, because then I could enjoy it even more. And trying to get carpal.
Well, controller support is always so difficult to manage when you're translating that over.
I bet.
Speaking from personal experience, but
look, PJ's in the chat on TikTok. That's funny.
The chat,
PJ, bro, if you could be don't Ayo, bro, you better jump in on this episode, bro. What are you doing? PJ told us he was on a secret mission. For those who were worried about where PJ may or may not be, supposedly he's at a Tekken tournament. I think he's scouting. For our Tekken tournament.
Yeah.
So we're giving him a pass on that.
Sorry, I just got a couple of people asking me where they can watch, so I'm sending them links.
Oh yeah, send them the links. To everybody else, if you guys are enjoying, if you're listening to us on TikTok, we are talking about Avowed. We are talking about video games today. We may even talk about some One Piece later. You never know what's gonna happen.
Okay, all right, I'm down.
You know.
No,
hold on, let me finish the announcements. So if you are on TikTok, make sure you tap that screen. Keep tapping it. I see we got only 321 likes right now. We've been doing this 15 minutes. We should be at 1,000 likes.
Smash that like button.
No, Saber, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not ignoring you, Saber. Delta was talking. I wanted him to finish talking. I'm not ignoring anybody. Y'all know we're on the podcast format, so it's not as me into the audience as normal. But
I'll pull up the stream so we can so I can see if we've got any questions there as well.
On YouTube, I know Saber's on YouTube. He's also on both. He is boosting our numbers.
Yeah, Saber, he's an ally for sure.
Exactly, Saber, you know. But
so
no,
so I was saying about bringing stuff in later, like like solving my complaints just through gameplay. I mean, Veilguard did it. I had critiques for Veilguard because at first I thought I couldn't upgrade any companion stuff, and it turns out you can. You just got to play through a little bit. Which in that case I was a little concerned because as a companion RPG, I really just wanted to make sure that I could change things there. But like this one, I was like, man, the mantling animation takes a little bit. Drinking a potion takes a little bit. Opening the chest kind of takes a little bit. But the thing is I mean, I've got the game pulled up right here. Dexterity. When you upgrade dexterity, it increases your action speed.
Yeah,
by like a certain percentage.
And I started noticing that. Like, because, I have the Jebediah character, so I'm dual wielding the flintlocks, and I was like, I got my dexterity at like level 5, and he reloads it so fast, I'm literally shooting like pow, 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 like it's just, and I'm dodging in between. PJ asks, so how is the Avowed play style? I'm guessing he's asking, how does it play? I would say it plays like a very upgraded Skyrim.
I would make the combat, I would attribute it more to Dishonored, if I'm being honest.
I haven't played Dishonored like that, so I couldn't say.
So Dishonored is very smooth and agile in the way that it plays, because like you can block technically, but the game's all about staying on your toes, thinking quickly, that kind of thing. So the feeling of like the dual wielding is kind of Skyrim-y, I would say, but in terms of the way it flows, I would say it's a lot more like Dishonored for me.
Okay. I guess in the flow of the combat, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, my wife's playing a mage, so she's got a little more of a tactical feel to it. She's got some casting prep like that. How would I rate it? Saber's asking how I would rate the game so far. Oh,
That's a good question. Because, I'm still at the very beginning, but so far, I'd give it, I'm at, the 6 out of 10 for me right now. But I think it's going to get better because I'm already a Pillars of Eternity fan, and the lore that is packed into this game, especially if you played the last two and, completed them, it's insane. So, I'm loving that aspect, and I can't wait to see more of that and see how that develops. So, my rating's probably going to change the further I get into it. But just going off of what I've experienced right now, I'd say a 6 out of 10.
Going off of my my save files right now, apparently I have 1 day and 3 hours worth of playtime in the game already.
Oh, wow.
I did leave it paused for a couple hours, so I'm assuming it's probably closer to the 15, 20-hour point. I'm in the second area. I just got the third companion last night. Honestly, it's closer to an 8 for me, possibly higher. Just looking at what's been done with this, because Obsidian they ooze confidence with this project. Like they put out way more review copies than most developers would for games like that. They really wanted to get this in people's hands, and it really does. The vibe is really good. So I went into this game with almost no information, which is typically the way that I love going into things, and it has really paid off for me this time. I didn't even know there were going to be companions.
Oh, wow.
And now that there are, the very first companion you get is voiced by Garrus's voice actor from Mass Effect.
I was like, he sounds, and I was like, no way.
And I told my wife, and she was immediately
now I just can't get rid of him. I
told my BioWare fan, and the thing is the character is basically just Garrus.
He literally is. He's like Pirate Garrus.
I can't get rid of him. I'm sitting there because you can bring 2 companions with you, and
oh, you can. I was wondering about that. Yeah. I only have him right now. I'm still having a hard time deciding which character I want to go through the game with.
Yeah. Hey, that's a vibe. It took me 10 years to finish Skyrim for that reason.
Yeah, but that's the fun thing about this. Trying all. I will say, my 6 out of 10 rating isn't to those listening. Don't take that as me saying it's bad. I don't think Avowed is bad. It's a fun game. It is a good game. It is very solid and it's very smooth. All of that is very true. There's just some things about what I was expecting out of the combat aspect that is limiting my review, but the story beats, the way the narrative is great. the
Really
combinations
intriguing.
of ways that you can attack. All of that.
Oh, yeah.
All
The
of that.
play styles are varied as hell.
And
It's
those are
amazing.
generally things that take a back seat in most of these new AAA titles that we get. So it's cool
Mhm.
to see that at the front of it. I just wish they would have spent a little bit more time on the third person camera for me. Like, or just took away the option, and I'd probably have a higher rating because, yeah.
So I will say one of the things that's interesting, and it does work similarly to the way Pillars did. The combat gets more complex with the items that you pick up. There are things that some of these weapons have totally different functionalities from the same kinds of weapons based on how unique they are. So like I just picked up like a trinket that you can wear that it just said summons a phantom during combat. And I'm like, shit, that's cool as hell. And I went into combat a couple times and it didn't show up and I didn't get why. And then I realized it goes into the action wheel and I can assign it to my abilities and summon it, but it works exactly like the items did in Pillars of Eternity, where you could summon like an Adra beetle to like fight for you and shit. And it's actually really cool. And it's completely changed how I play the game at this point, because now I'll open with like a pistol shot and then immediately summon the phantom. And if it can't get to something physically like right away, it'll start throwing spells at shit. And it lasts for like a solid 60 seconds, and then the cooldown's another 60 seconds.
That's
but
not too bad.
No, it's not. And I love playing a summoner. If anyone here is watching me that knows how I love playing, I love making shit do stuff for me and not having to participate half the time. But
Delta's the lazy adventurer.
I really am. Dude, when I played Borderlands 3, I was using only TDR weapons. I would fire one bullet and then reload it into the ground and then watch it run off on its little legs and shoot shit. I had the greatest time just running around and like tossing little kamikaze guns everywhere.
That's hilarious.
But so like when I first started doing the wand and gun thing, it didn't really, like, just using the common pistol and the common wand, it was okay. But then later on, I found a gun that did shock damage, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then each unique weapon can be upgraded at camp, and you can upgrade its effect to do something a little different. So I upgraded it, and now when I get a kill, there's a 25% chance it casts Crackling Bolt, which is kind of like Chain Lightning, where it just bounces a ball of lightning off of shit, which is really cool.
That's insane.
And it enhances shock damage too. It's like deals 10% extra shock damage. So then I get to the second area, and I find a unique wand that does more electric damage, and then it does shit in an area, and then I got bracers that increase electric damage,
so
and
now
suddenly
static Glock.
Oh, that's a good one. Static Glock. I was going Flintlock Palpatine, but Static Glock is perfect.
Static Glock.
Exactly. Which makes me feel terrible because they got that whole gun violence episode.
Yo, I know, right? He's just like, hey, man.
It's an intense episode.
I had to step it up, man. Had to step it up.
Dude, I'm going to go around. Dude, I'm going to go around going superheroes, Static Glock now whenever I play.
Bow, bow.
But but the thing is like as that happens, I'm getting this play style in, and it's drawing me in much more now.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's been my biggest thing. Usually, it takes me a while to figure out how I want to play through the game with my role playing. So, like with Jebediah, that character is very easy because I just built him just like how he is in my story. So I know I'm doing dual pistols, but I am running into that same issue where like the common ones. But that's a good feature on this game, though. Like, the common weapons just feel like common weapons. They don't feel, there's nothing special about them. And then as you get the more unique ones, and there's a shit ton of unique ones. They're, like, everywhere.
There's a lot.
You get rewarded, I will say, guys, you do get rewarded for exploration. So as long as you're exploring, then you're going to find these things that can make the game a little more fun.
They thought of everything. Every time I do the QA thing where I'm trying to throw myself out of the world half the time anyway, and I have gotten to places where I'm like, there's no way they know. And then there's a fucking chest with a unique sitting right there, and I'm like, great. Like, I'm thrilled as professionally and as like a player. I'm absolutely thrilled to have that be a thing for me.
Saber says that he plays usually as himself, but he makes when he makes the role playing choices. I mean, typically I do too, except when I'm playing Jebediah, then I got to do it like Jebediah. Typically,
this man, I have watched. No, folks, I have watched Amir specifically refuse to play games because he can't be a black guy with dreads.
Yeah, I can't. That's what I'm saying. Typically.
Typically,
if I can't be me,
100% of the time.
Listen. Why do you think Jebediah is a dread-headed cowboy bounty hunter?
I know why. You're all about self-insertion. I know about this.
Hey, you gotta insert yourself in your story, man. It's your story, man.
I guess, but it's like, man, if I could be a lizard person or a cat lady or something, well, I'm there. You know?
That's the cool thing about my series Rock Salt, right? Because the way I wrote Jebediah, that's like the more serious side of me. And then I have Klaus, and that's the chaos gremlin. You know what I'm saying? So it all works together. But ultimately, that's why they get along so well, because they're just me.
I will say, like, in games where I've got less of an option, so like in games like Mass Effect or something like that, where you're typically human, I tend to aim more towards myself. So in this one of the bigger turnoffs, I think, for some RPG players is that there's no race decision. You are explicitly a godlike, which is a race within Pillars of Eternity, which is, I mean, I always played godlike anyway in Pillars. I think godlike is a fascinating character.
What did you force me to play on? Hold on. What did you force me to play on Steam? What was it? On Skyrim.
Me?
Oh, he forced me to play a Khajiit. That's what Saber forced me to play as. Like, he was like a Khajiit, and not just any Khajiit, a cat lady Khajiit.
Mm.
Yeah, he made me a furry.
Man, it's a fantasy world. Enjoy yourself.
Hey,
but it's
she's cool though. She's like a monk. She owns a farm that has workers, and they pay me every Thursday.
Again, Padme, you're going down a path I can't follow.
I'm sorry. It just listen. But I think there's a lore behind the farm. So the farm was actually like,
sure.
They were like about to go out of, like, they weren't making enough money, and they didn't have enough protection. So then I read this on a note. So then you bought the property. And so, they allow you stay there, but you can hire workers to help tend the farm, so you can help get these people out of the debt that they're in.
No.
So, what they take their portion, and you take yours. It's pretty equitable, I think.
I will say one thing that made me think of it. I want to come back to the godlike thing, but what you just said about reading the note is really interesting, because one thing I will say that AVOWED does very, very well is there's tons of stuff to read, like there is in any of these games. But in AVOWED, when you read something, there is a very reasonable chance that it is something you can bring up in a conversation.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
That has blown me away. Like, I'll go and I'll read a bunch of stuff, and then I'll go and I'll have a conversation, and someone will be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, really? Because I just read your journal, and in your journal you said this, and they get mad about, it's like, oh, you were in my property. It's like, yeah, fine, you're mad that I was reading your shit. However, you just lied to me.
Exactly.
And however, that becomes you can actually change how it goes.
You were schmurdering the dogs in the neighborhood. We saw you do it.
Mm-hmm. And it's been really interesting. I mean, and the lore entries, thankfully, they're not very long either. That's one of the things. Like, I really love the lore.
Like, but they're the lore concise aspects, the exploration, and the lore aspects of this game are where this game shines 100%. I got a buddy, Malik. He did a review, and he pretty much said, like, it just wasn't for him. And then he listed out why. And one of the reasons why was that he didn't play the first two games in the series, the Pillars of Eternity series. So he didn't play those games. So a lot of the stuff to him, if you're new to it, it's not going to hit you as hard, but it's still good. It's not that it's bad. That impact though. Like, when I'm like reading about something, like I came across the Cad Nua banner, and I was like, oh, I was like, man, I was fighting gods. Like,
that was my shit.
Exactly. I knew it was my shit. You can talk to the curator, and he goes into like the story of literally everything that happened in the first two games, and it's so cool. So cool for that to happen.
Which is funny because I haven't finished Deadfire, so I did get a little spoiled, but I don't mind too much in that regard. But that's so another thing that this game does, which is this is just me being an accessibility freak. I'm really enjoying this. So people that don't know, like, the lore of the game, one of the fascinating things about it is during any discussion, you can press a button and it can pull up a glossary of any, like, jargon or terms that they've used that aren't just normal words. So Cad Nua, something like that. And there are literal entries that have explanations as to, like, what those things are. So, like, you say, like, if they say like a word in another language, if you pull it up, it says, "Oh, this is what this means in the other language." Or if they mention like, Wodica, and a normal like first time player is like, "What the fuck is that?" And then you press
Yeah,
a
you
button,
pull
and
it
it's
up
like,
and it's
"Oh,
telling you about the
Wodica was a
god. Yeah.
goddess," and it's like, "Oh." And there's all this information there. You can pull that up at any time, and you can keep doing the conversation. It doesn't disrupt anything. It's not even a menu. You press a button, and it pulls open this side panel that's like very well organized, and it is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in an RPG because it's really easy to lose track of names and terminology and whatnot in games like this.
It really
And
is.
they've made this very basic system, and it's fascinating. Like if you're a lore, like if you really enjoy the lore, but you're also not good at remembering shit, it's perfection. It feels
It really does.
really.
It really helps. It really helps. Saber
Mhm.
says, "What's the gameplay of Pillars of Eternity?" The Pillars of Eternity series has two types of gameplay modes.
Mhm.
Ultimately, they are like a CCRPG, but the first one's more of a real time strategy. I would say
Yeah,
because your combats don't go in turns; they go in a matter of seconds. So you can set it to have 6 seconds in between each of your actions, and then it will pause for you to select your next set of actions, kind of like Knights of the Old Republic, kind of like that, but a little bit
kind of.
more with more going on. But you can
I
also play it in turn-based mode.
Well, it's not even turns. It's really interesting. So it's all of the characters' actions are based on their speed, which is
Mm-hmm.
variable to all of them. But the game is all about auto pause or pausing the game repeatedly to like dictate actions and stuff, which on PC is great. I will say on console it's awful.
Yeah, no, it sucks on
Um,
console.
it does not feel good on console, but like they even have a setting where it's like, oh, you can set it so it pauses like every 1 to 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I will say so. One big critique I have of Pillars of Eternity, at least the first game, the AI for your companions in the Pillars of Eternity is criminally stupid. It
They
does
don't. They
not.
barely use their abilities, man. Or
No,
if
like, and
they
you can
do, they
set
just
AI. You
spam
can
them.
set AI behavior too, but
Mm-hmm.
it looks detailed, but it really doesn't work that well, especially since the game uses spell slots like D&D. So you can get through one fight, and all of a sudden your AI has burned through like all of their 6 level spells, and it just doesn't have anything available anymore, which
Yeah.
is really frustrating.
That's why I liked when
Um,
Avowed when Pillars of Eternity 2 came out, Deadfire or Dreadfire or
mhm.
whatever. When that came out
Definitely.
and you at the beginning of the game you can select turn-based mode. And when you do it
Hmm.
like that, now you're playing it like Baldur's Gate, completely
Which is a
different
little easier.
feel. You're in control of when those NPCs would be, using their 6 spells and their
Yeah.
high level spells. But it's very fun. I do like the RTS aspect of it. I do enjoy that, the real time
Hmm.
pausing. I think that's really cool. I myself, um, I didn't pick that many mages to come with me because of that exact problem. So I picked
Yeah.
way more clerics and then or made paladins or something. That was another cool thing you could do. You could create your own NPCs to join you, like your own like mercenaries that would
Yeah,
join
that's
you.
right.
And that was really
Um,
cool. So
and
I
you could have 6 characters,
yeah, you got
and
six characters
any
with you up in combat,
which
and
is
most of the
like
time you're gonna need that.
yeah. You could also like adjust the formation of how you walked, so you could put like your healers in back along with ranged characters, and then
Mm-hmm.
you and your tanks up front, and that was really cool. And then if anyone's got like pets, they count as a separate character that doesn't count towards the count. So like if you've got like a ranger with you, you have 7 characters plus like with the pet included, and the pet gets its own slot in that formation.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the first game, you get the ranger woman, like the dwarf lady, and you put her in the back with the bow, and then you get the wolf up front with or the fox up front with you, and you've got that whole like line going through. And it's if you're a fan of RTS games, it really is cool. And I don't despite my dislike of how the companion AI works, it's really not meant to have like you're not meant to play it with AI.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I got spoiled on games like KOTOR and Dragon Age Origins that did AI behavior really well.
Oh yeah.
KOTOR was basically that's my thing. There are games that do AI behavior really well and AI behavior like not at all. I don't like having to manage all of my companions on the level that Baldur's Gate has me do it. I did like Baldur's Gate, but having to choose every single action, having no autonomy for them, did kind of drive me nuts. Meanwhile, like Origins, I love Dragon Age Origins because it had whole things where I could be like if health, it had if else state or if and statements. So it was like if or if then statements. Sorry. if your health is at 30%, then use like the highest health potion.
Yeah, I feel like that's how you have to have it if you're gonna have the AI system, and it's
yeah.
like, and it's very simple. It's not. It's like very rudimentary. It's not like it's super complicated. It's just like you said. If you do it if and at. I mean, I'm not saying it's not complicated to do. I'm sure it's complicated to implement. I'm saying
it can be complicated to play. A lot of people get overwhelmed with it.
Oh, okay. See, I never thought about it that way. I just was like, hey, yeah, this makes sense. Like, hey, if I go at 20% health, I'm your priority. Heal me. I'm the main character.
Like, well, think about how few people think about how few players will do that though. Is the big thing. A lot of games don't have you do anything like that. So I will say, like one thing that bothered me about Veilguard, and I think I brought it up last time we talked, was all of the companions were very much just an extension of you. So like if you watched them in combat, they didn't do a whole lot of damage. They took no aggro whatsoever.
Yeah, they don't even have health bars.
It was like, yeah, they don't even have health bars. So like it felt like BioWare was like, oh hey, like you're the hero, only you. You are the hero. No one else does anything. And I will say, so in Avowed, they do have health bars.
Yes, they do.
They do take aggro. They don't always do a ton of damage, but they do damage. Like I've seen moments where they've absolutely murked someone, but I've also seen moments where they don't actually do a ton. But there's also a setting that says like
against them Zarups, bro. He don't play with them Zarups, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like so, there are moments like like the game settings also give you an option to let them use their abilities where appropriate, and they do. And I like that. I like that a lot, especially since the only action you have to like the quick use of abilities is the 4 D-pad buttons. So scripting that there, like I used to have it scripted so that like I would have certain characters' abilities there, but now that they can use their own shit, I use my own abilities off to the side because like I want to be able to summon a phantom more than I want to tell Kai to gun someone down. Because Kai guns people down on his own, and I like that. I like that about it.
Yeah, there's one time I'm playing, and like I had got like knocked back by this enemy, and then Kai popped up with his blunderbuss ability. Like as I'm falling backwards, he's like, ah, and just domed the thing, and I was like, oh my goodness, my hero.
Yeah, no, the AI is a lot smarter, or at least it feels smarter. Like it's still very clearly trying to be like you're the hero. But it doesn't make me feel like I'm getting the participation trophy that Veilguard did. Because Veilguard, it really hit its stride for me when I hit my build. Like, the thing was I was playing a mage, and I was really not having the greatest time because I couldn't figure out exactly how I wanted to play.
Right.
But eventually I made a build in Veilguard that I named We Have Blood Mage at Home. So basically, I put on a bunch of talents and abilities and items that made it so when I cast, instead of using mana, it would cast using my health at 350% of the cost. So it would just tank my health down in chunks. But then I also had stuff that made it so when I hit certain thresholds in my health, like when I hit low health, my damage resistance would amp up, my ability power would amp up, and then there are items you can get that actually change the threshold for low health. So you hit low health, instead of at 20%, you hit it at like 40%.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so then suddenly I was walking in and I was immortal. I would just drop like meteors on people, and it would just wipe shit out, and it was amazing, and it felt really good. But like my companions were an afterthought. I stopped using them. Like all of this stuff, I just equipped them in a way that it was like, okay, they make it so my abilities do this because they're not doing any of their own shit anyway. And now I can just walk in and wail on a boss because I'm not losing health.
Exactly.
Like I'm just dropping shit. Like my health hits 1%, and my damage resistance hits like 99. It was amazing.
And that's the thing with the companion-based kind of like, that kind of storytelling format, like party-based games, is how helpful is your party if you're not the one controlling them. Like, that's a really big aspect of it. And I will say, like you said with Avowed, like, I don't really feel like I have to tell Kai what to do. We just go in there, it works. If I'm like really needing and help, and I need him just to get this thing off of me. Oh yeah! Hey, thank you for the follow, Ben. I appreciate it. That's what we're here for. You might want to go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube as well. We are live on YouTube as well right now.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, smash the like button. Just y'all got us to 3,000 likes. I do appreciate that. We're at 40 minutes. We probably got like another hour in us, maybe. I don't know how much time Delta's got, but
no, I'm here, man.
But talking about Avowed's making me want to play it. That's the crazy thing.
Oh yeah, no, I've got it paused here. Literally, I was playing like right until we hit the record button, and
I was
just sitting there. I was tempted.
Oh, hey, we hit the goal. Thanks, Blurred, for helping us hit the goal of the Tiny Dinies. Let's go. That's amazing. We had a little goal, a little gift goal on TikTok, and we just
Oh
achieved
hell
it.
yeah!
Yeah. So good job, y'all. I appreciate y'all.
Okay.
But
Mm.
but yeah. So in like I forgot what I was saying. Oh, okay, yeah. I was playing Kingdom Come Deliverance earlier. I've been having a blast in that one.
Mm.
Talk about a game that took what came before it and only improved it. Like they kept everything that was good and improved it except one thing. And that one thing is you can only do master strikes either unarmed or with a sword. They don't have master strikes for all the weapons like they did in the first game. And I
What are
thought
master strikes?
and,
I'm not
and
familiar
what's
with
weird
them.
about it to me is in the first game, the developers were talking about how they noticed a lot of the player base wasn't using any other weapons other than the longsword, and they were like kind of upset by that. Not like upset, like mad, but kind of like down because they wanted people to try the other techniques out with the other weapons. But now we're taking that same thing. Now they've just applied it, and now the sword is still the most ultimate weapon, even though in that time period, something like an axe or a mace would have been more appropriate for fighting somebody in plate armor. So, it's just
Hmm.
I'm like they kind of missed the
Yeah.
ball a little bit for me. But other than that, it's still fun. I love Henry. Henry has now moved up to my top 5 of favorite video game protagonist, RPG video game protagonists, and probably my second favorite fictional white guy right now. So yeah, it's going great.
So who does so how do the master strikes work? I'm not familiar with the
Oh, so
game.
okay, so in the first game, Master Strikes were just about timing your block. So if you just timed your block right,
Oh,
you would do like an instant parry with an attack. So it was
oh,
very you could get through a lot of enemies very quickly. Now in this game, you actually have to attack them from the opposite arm while they're attacking. So if I'm on the right and you're coming from the left, then I hit my attack button. So I essentially attack your weapon and then attack you. But you can only do it with a sword. And the way they get into it with how that works is it just doesn't make sense narratively. It doesn't make sense even realistically. Which this is a game that sells you on its realism. So like you could do a master strike if you're skilled enough and you know a counter technique with a different weapon. Like it doesn't to me this doesn't make sense that only the sword can do it or only unarmed can do it. It doesn't like it just doesn't make sense. Like if you could do it with those two things, why can't I smack your sword out the way with my mace and then come quickly back, and clock you in the head? Like why couldn't I do that? You know what I mean? It's
hmm.
just weird.
Yeah,
But
I guess I don't know enough about medieval combat to really
I
weigh in
mean,
on
I
that.
don't know that much about it either, but I mean, I do have a friend on here. He does HEMA fighting, so like
Okay.
he's talked about it. But like the way they have the techniques and stuff is all the techniques and stuff are perfect. I will say though, even to go against my complaint that I just said, because I'm thorough and I'm trying to be objective here, it does have perks. So like with the axe or with heavy weapons. So heavy weapons are your maces and your axes. So you can get this ability that when you do a war cry, which you can taunt or you can hit a button and you have like vocal options that you can do. So you can surrender, you can taunt, or you can war cry, right?
Hmm.
So if you do a war cry, most of the time people are like, "What are you yelling at? Shut up!" And they try to like hurt you. But if you get the perk for it, it will demoralize the person you're fighting. So now they like it's harder for them to do things. So it's easier for you to get your combos off that you don't have to rely on a master strike. Even the most battle hardened enemies start, kind of like are wary when they're fighting you. So they're like scared to do stuff. And then you can get another perk that is called the like masterful feint or something like that. So then you can start an attack from this side, switch your angle, hit them from that side, and you almost guarantee a hit if you time your
Hmm.
feint correctly. So you can combine those two things to like get away from needing the master strike, but the master strike is just badass, and I just want to use it.
I mean, it might just be the sword focus, you know. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I personally like using weapons other than swords half the time,
Me
but
too. I
like,
like
man,
axes.
dude, gamers and nerds, we're horny for swords. We all know it,
Yeah,
you know.
man.
Like,
That's what we want.
we've been studying the way of the blade and all that shit. We are just
And let that
we're
sword
hung
be
up
a
on it.
katana, and oh man.
I no, man, absolutely not. It just makes me think of the time you made me play. Oh God, what is it? Ubisoft's game, For Honor.
Yo,
God, angriest game I've ever played in my life.
so
I'll never
fun,
forget
though.
that. Like, I tried so hard to be good at that game, and it was just not working. For like the parrying thing was so hard, so I decided, oh, I'm gonna play the Peacemaker or the Peacekeeper, the one that stabs and does the bleed damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget the first match you and I went into. I'm 1v1ing the inevitable two-handed Daikatana samurai guy because everyone. The second Japan comes out, everyone's a weeb, you know?
Exactly.
And he's coming at me. I'm dying horribly because this blade just can't be blocked and it can't be dodged either at this point. But I managed just to shank him and bleed, and I disengage and run and pick up a health pickup that's sitting behind me. And he bleeds to death. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, it works out. The man sent me a journal on Xbox, on the Xbox message system, which takes a long ass time. He wrote a book. And it was like, oh, it's called For Honor. If you don't have any, you shouldn't play. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I went and I picked up a health pickup. You're not supposed to use those. I'm like, bro, it's a mechanic. It's been added by development. Like, you're supposed to use it. He's like, well, that's not how it works. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. If I'm going to get a novel every time I win, I don't want this.
People used to do that to me all the time because, see, me, I'm an edger, bro. If you get to the edge, I'm pushing you off of it. Or I'm dodging if you're doing an attack, and then I'm pushing you off of it. Like,
if anyone gets a clip, please get him saying I'm an edger, bro. Because I need that as a reel and a ringtone and everything else.
I'll even, when I go to the AI to get it to
get the AI to clip you saying I'm an edger, bro.
And then it will get it. It will get it for us. I guarantee you. Gets piped from 10 feet away. Yo, and that's so true. Like, it's a war simulating game. This is a medieval war simulating battle game. Like, yeah, it's got fantasy. Yeah, it's called For Honor, but you're not fighting for your honor. You're fighting for the honor of your country, of your countrymen. If there's it's so crazy. People say that, and it's like, you think in medieval times, if you're next to a cliff, you're going to be like, wait, hold on. I'm right next to a cliff. I don't want to die that way. I want you to stab me. That's wild. The guy's like, okay, yeah, let's move over here where it's safer.
Like, if someone's trying to kill me and I'm on the ground, I'm throwing a fistful of dirt and hitting your nuts, man.
Yeah,
like, I don't care.
Batman people, man.
It's Chainsaw Man. It's nuts or nothing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's absolutely not a question of honor at that point. But, like, again, it's what the game is about, which is fine. But I don't understand why they made this class that only dodges and uses a pair of like dinky little stiletto blades.
They did fix it later. And
then, it's great. I enjoyed it because it meant I didn't have to parry. I just had to focus on evasion, which I was better at because of all my years playing Dark Souls. But like, damn, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go heal, and somehow that was the crime. That was the cardinal sin. Was when I picked up the glowing green thing that was very clearly put there to help me. That was the killer point for him. Holy hell,
man! Like, it's so great. I get it in some modes. Like, you know, when you're playing like a 4v4 situation and it's like deathmatch and you're in your separate 1v1s. I can understand somebody who's getting like jumped to be like, okay, that's crazy. Like, everybody else got their 1v1s, but I can't get my 1v1. But like, I get that aspect. But then I also say, this is a team-based game. We're trying to win. Like, what are you talking about?
It reminds me of there's this unwritten code of honor in Dark Souls, and if my buddy Landon's watching right now, he's probably chuckling about it now because I'll never forget. He and I were doing Dark Souls, I think 3 together, and he was helping me through part of the swamp, or he was just joining me through part of the swamp level with the crabs, the big crabs. Time for crab.
Yo,
and I get invaded.
I hated that level. What's up, Tony?
I get invaded. And he goes and he decides to fight the invader, but they both bow at each other, right? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so they're fighting, and Landon starts getting his ass beat, and he's like really low on health, and I'm like, oh no. So I walk up behind the guy and I just shiv him through the fucking ribs and kill him. And Landon pops off. He's like, dude, why would you do that? I'm like, because he was going to kill you. He's like, no, man, we bowed at each other. That means that there's an understanding that it's to the death. And I'm like, bro, he's going to die. My ass needs to kill these crabs. I don't have time for this shit. And he is just lost.
Let me tell you, my friend Charles, right? So me and my friend Charles.
I remember Charles.
Yeah, me and my friend Charles were playing what is it? Elden Ring, and this was like one
Oh
of
yeah.
the first like Souls games me and him have played together. Like we've all played all of them. Hey, Jonathan, orange colored sky. Jonathan in the TikTok chat also knows Charles, so he's like Charles mentioned. So, but anyway, so me and Charles were playing Elden Ring with his ex girlfriend, but his girlfriend at the time, and we kept getting invaded by like the same three people. I don't know, and they would not engage with any of us, right? And they would only engage in 1v1 combat, and that used to piss Charles off because they just started it. I'm like, so they're coming to fight me because I'm like the big, I'm like, level like 180 or something. So
Yeah.
I'm fighting these people 1v1s, and I'm like, Charles, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lead him out of your view. And then you just start casting your spells. And so I would literally just bait them to get killed, and we would get messages all the time. People were like, "You bowed, man. I thought this was gonna be honorable." I was like, you invaded. Where's the honor in invading people who are just trying to play the game? There's no honor. You get no honor. I didn't summon to fight you. You invaded me.
Whenever I got invaded or got summoned to help with invaders, whenever there was a bow, I would do the little graceful pirouette thing, which looked ridiculous because I love building heavy poise, but then enough to the point where I'm still doing everything quickly. So it's just me power leveling like equip weight really fucking hard. And so I'm wearing like Hovel's armor, but then I'm doing like the fancy ballet thing at them. And then they come at me and I just absolutely face tank them. But the thing I really took up was equipping whatever item it was. It was like a blue thing in Elden Ring where like if someone got invaded, you could be summoned to help them. And I would sit in the starting area waiting for griefers to invade someone. And my character was a mage that also had like a great sword. So then I would wait, and then I would cast this spell that just summons this horde of meteors out of the sky.
Oh my goodness!
And just blanket the entire battlefield and like lay people out while the new kid would just run off. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, man. I like when it comes to like certain games, like I'll honor an honor system. Like if the other person I'm helping is okay with that. But like if we've been sitting here, we've been struggling for a couple of hours trying to beat the boss. We have to keep you know how Dark Souls is. It loops you back, so then you gotta run back and you gotta keep doing all this stuff again. And so it's like when that keeps happening, and then you got this asshole who invades you, and instead of just running to the fight like you're supposed to do, they hide or they stay in your view, but like now you can't progress because there's a fog wall because you have to kill the invader, and instead of them just engaging, now you don't want to fight honorably. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why? I just want to play through the game.
There was a great item in Dark Souls 3 that you could do that when you used it, it would make all the enemies in the area hostile to any invader.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely loved because I would always stock up on those so that when I got invaded in 3, like at random times if it got invaded and I was in a really high level area, I just use that shit. And just you could hear the panic because like there were like a burst of attacks off in the distance, and then I'd get a message saying the invader was defeated and I'd get a bunch of souls. And I used to get hate mail for that. I don't care. I loved that shit. That was so fucking fun.
I never got the idea. Like, I can understand something being cheap, like, a button masher. I can understand the feel of that being cheap. But then again, like, if you're really good at the game, a button masher's shouldn't really be having an easy time with you if you're good at the game. You should know the strategy. But in Dark Souls, there is nothing honorable about anything happening in the Dark Souls franchise. Like, it's all about deceit and lies and the repetition of life. Like, that's it. That's all it's about. It never says honor. It says honor nowhere. It's crazy.
Now I'm worried that my friend is watching because he's going to roast me afterwards.
Hey,
if he sees
listen.
This.
If he roasts you, tell me. I'll roast him back. I don't care about none of that honor stuff and no Dark Souls. That don't even make sense.
No, he's chill. He just got mad at me that one time, but we've had our debates over the years about it.
Like if I say, hey Delta, I'm a 1v1 this guy, and then you just go and do that, then I'd be like, I wouldn't be mad, but I'd be like, come on, man.
No, I'm gonna do it anyway. I love that shit. I think it's funny.
Look, man, well, he was whooping your ass. Still, like, I get it. You know?
No, even if he's not going to, I'm gonna meme beam the shit out of someone in Elden Ring. Like, just
Bro.
you wait. It's gonna happen every single time. I just think it's funny as hell.
Did you see the new kind of it's not Elden Ring, but it's like in that same made by
Oh,
from
the night rain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
What'd you think of that?
yeah. I saw that. I know a lot of people that previous friend included are alarmed at the idea for because it's got bosses from like pretty much every FromSoft franchise across it. I think it looks kind of cool. A lot of people are kind of like FromSoft said they weren't going to do something like this, like a multiplayer battle royale style thing. I'm kind of like if they can maintain it and it's fun, I'd say go for it. But I mean, it's a $40 game. I'll give it a shot. I think it seems kind of like fun. If I can have a like sort of Dark Soulsy experience without the ass backwards process of multiplayer that they use, where it's like summoning shit, and you got to be certain levels and only for certain zones, and like if I can just jump in multiplayer, I'm actually kind of like intrigued by that. Um, but I do know that there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, so
It looked
I'll
pretty
be curious.
cool. I liked the speed of it. I liked the like how smooth the running and stuff looked. Now there's a couple of course, really super anime feely things that I just don't think
There are,
fit
yeah.
this like
It almost feels too smooth, like for a Souls
yeah.
game. It doesn't
It just
feel very
doesn't
Soulsy.
it doesn't fit
The
it doesn't
vibe.
fit the environment in my opinion.
Mhm.
Or the style, the artistic style of the game. Like some games if I saw somebody running on the side of the wall in like Dragon Age, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like D&D. I feel that.
Yeah,
But seeing somebody do that and then do all this weird, like all the weird mods that they have that make it super anime in
Dark Souls
Dark Souls
or
is
Elden Ring.
or Elden Ring, it just doesn't. I don't know. It just kind of takes a
Yeah, I
little
mean, well,
takes a little bit out of
like
way.
the drop in alone always makes me feel kind of weird for it because I've seen some videos of it where they like come in on those like spectral birds,
Mm-hmm.
and then they drop you in, and I'm like, that fall, that's gonna kill him. It's like this is Souls, man. Fall is gonna kill you, and it doesn't, and it that alone makes me feel very strange. There are a couple of moments in Dark Souls and Elden Ring, especially like the newest DLC, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC
Mm-hmm.
for Elden Ring. There's a boss fight that you have to drop like a solid 15 seconds to get into, and the fact that you don't die, like you just hit the ground, no damage
And
at
then
all, and it's like,
and then anywhere else, you're done.
anywhere else you're done, and that's the thing I think that sort of confuses me is like it doesn't, it's so jarring. Like you could have created several ways of making me like reach that destination that didn't break what I knew about the known universe at that point. But
Exactly.
I mean, all that aside, this doesn't feel like it's meant to be like, it's not like the next entry in a Souls game. It seems like
Exactly.
it's FromSoft's greatest hits. Like we all know that we all know that they're gonna make something new that we're all obsessed with, but it's gonna take time. It always takes time with them. So like if they're gonna do this in the meantime as a way to boost revenue and it ends up actually being fun, I'm here for it. Like
Yeah,
I'm
man.
actually I'm intrigued. We'll see where it leads, you know?
Yeah, man. No, I'm definitely with you. I'm definitely with you there. So now I think we should do a cool little thing on
Oh.
our little
Uh-oh.
podcast here, and we're gonna talk about One Piece.
One Piece.
One Piece, specifically your journey into One
Oh
Piece.
no.
But before you do that, before we start there, I got to get a One Piece graphic. So give me one
Oh
second.
no.
Trying to find the best one to get.
Man, every clip the AI has made of this has been me outing myself as someone who's controversial, and it's going to be the same this time around. But like the One Piece thing, now I'm going to be a weeb to everyone that looks at this.
Yeah, man, you're gonna be a weeb, bro. It's okay. Everybody's got to weeb out sometime.
I guess so.
It
It's
might
just
as well be
it's
today.
turning into a monologue now. You know, if you're going to get my story out of this,
Hey, man, that's the point. I mean, I could, I'm gonna
Delta's
talk.
biography.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about it too. It's not just gonna be you.
Right. No, no, all right.
Because One Piece is one of the greatest stories of all time. Always has been and always will be.
Facts.
But yeah, it's like, so okay, give people a little background on how I got into One Piece. It was Saturday morning. I believe it had to have been like 9 a.m. I got my bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm at my grandma's house. I turn on the TV, Channel 6, Kids WB, and I hear, yo, ya, yo, ya, yo. And I was locked in from that moment alone. I was like, there's this rubber man. He's running from island to island, beating ass. I'm watching this. And I have spent the last 20 years of my life watching One Piece. That's what did it for me. The minute Luffy popped out the barrel with the like, I was in there. 4 kids on top.
4 kids dubs. Oh man,
that's what got me into it.
What was it? Was it Captain Smoker or Captain Chaser?
They called Smoker, him. Yeah.
They called him Chaser.
They called him Chaser. The 4 kids.
He didn't have the cigars. He was just smoking out of his mouth for no reason.
Exactly, bro. It was great. But for those who don't know, me and Delta met in college, so I used to try to get Delta. We have a lot of shared interests, and one of those interests that was not shared was anime. And I used to try to get this man to watch One Piece, and he would never do it. And then 1 year after college, he called me up and was like, we haven't spoken in a while, and I want you to know you were right. One Piece is great. I've been watching One Piece. I'm on like episode 300. I was like, what?
So yeah, I guess to give that, like, I didn't have TV growing up. We had a television, but it was for like movies and video games, and that was it. So all of my exposure to television, like through most of my childhood, was at friends' houses. So like, go over to my best friend Sam's place. We'd watch like, you know, Ed, and Eddie, Dragon Ball Z, SpongeBob, all types of shit like that. But like, I never caught like the episodic stuff. I usually missed. I saw a couple episodes of One Piece. I'll remember we were at someone's house for a New Year's party, and it was very boring. So I went upstairs, and they had a TV, and I turned it on, and they were running part of the Usopp arc they were running the One Piece on 4 kids, but it was just like a marathon. I think it was like a Toonami thing.
Mm-hmm.
And was it? I don't know. But it was like the beginning all the way through the Usopp arc. So like most of the East Blue arc. Mm-hmm. And I watched that for hours because I had nothing better to do. And I do remember the One Piece rap. That was pretty. That stuck in my head for years. But I was like, oh, this is actually
the best theme song they've ever had, man.
I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. But like, that was all I ever done with it. And I don't know. Anime never really appealed to me for the longest time. And then 4-5 years ago, I reconnected with my niece. Hadn't seen her. She was one of the flower girls at my wedding, but I hadn't seen her in like 10 years. She was like 13, and I hadn't seen her in like not 10 years. We hadn't been married that long, but she was like 13 at this time. And we go to a family reunion for my wife. My wife is from South Dakota. It's a bunch of farmers out there. So it's all of these like very stoic Norwegian, German farmers. And then this one girl with blue hair and a My Hero Academia sweatshirt on. And I'm like, man, that is a different kid. And then I'm like, oh my God, wait, that's Tiana. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, this kid, no one here knows how to engage with a kid like that. And I'm like, all right. I was like, I'm hip. I work in games. That makes me cool to kids. I was like, the least I can do is just like, you know, because I don't really connect with the people there as well. Like, you know, I don't know a whole lot about what they're doing. I try. Mm-hmm. But so I'm sitting there looking at the sweatshirt. It doesn't say My Hero Academia. It's got a picture of Todoroki on it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure I can look it up. So I Google. I'm like, red and white hair anime character. And I start scrolling through the list until I find him. And I'm like, Todoroki, My Hero Academia. There's my in. So I walk up to her, and I'm like, hey, I was like, is that a My Hero Academia sweatshirt? And she just lights up, right? Drags me into the next room. It's like the sitting room, and it's just me and her for 4 hours.
Just watching My Hero Academia.
Just pops off about anime. She's talking to me about all of it. She's showing me clips from My Hero. She's like, you have to watch it. And like, at one point she stops me and she's like, thanks for talking to me about this. No one ever wants to talk to me about this. I'm like, oh, like my dad instincts, my like paternal instincts kick in. I'm like, shit. All right. And she's like, please promise me you're going to watch it. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. So I burned through all of My Hero Academia, and I actually really enjoyed it. I'm like, okay. My Hero
Academia is a fun one. That's
yeah.
Like,
and I had made exceptions in the past.
Stuff with the artist on the manga, like he
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he showed the Invisible Girl, but he drew her very lewd, and she was like covered up by caution tape, but we actually got to see like her body, which was really weird because now it implies that she's always nude and she's
I
like,
mean, I kind of assumed that to begin with. I
yeah,
don't
but it's
know if
like,
that
you
just
know, she kid though, man. She in high
yeah.
school, man. So it's
I mean, if you
weird.
watch League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, like you remember Skinner, man, he was invisible and naked the whole time.
That is
But
true. That is true
no,
though. But it was weird for him
I
to do
mean,
that. He did acknowledge it. He was like he didn't realize like the Western base was like that into My Hero
yeah,
or
I mean
something like
that's
that.
sort of a thing with the Japanese are a bit slow on the draw with how the Western audience views stuff like that, but they're
Hmm.
coming around. But
Yeah, they're starting to get
I
really.
watched,
They're really paying attention to it now. It's really crazy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, bravo. You know, it's not easy to pull around like that, especially when that form of entertainment is so integral to
Hmm.
Japanese culture. You know, they've got whole schools for anime. So it's it's understandably slow, but I applaud the attempt.
Yeah, as long as they're making the attempt, that's what matters. You know,
Yeah.
they'll get better.
But I had made exceptions in the past. Like I'd watched all of Cowboy Bebop, which
Classic.
was great. You remember Alex Mans? He was the one
Hmm.
that got me to watch that.
Did you ever get around to watching Outlaw Star?
No, not yet.
Oh, if you like Cowboy
Um,
Bebop, you'll like Outlaw Star. It's the same vibe, but it's like
but
it's more of a space western, which is why I like it.
yeah, I so it was so I eventually I kept on thinking about One Piece about that time at that New Year's party, and I'm like, okay, I really enjoyed it that one time. Maybe I'll go and I'll start watching some of it. So I started watching, and I was hooked. And we were working remote at the time. This was what 3 years ago, and suddenly I was working remotely, so I could have other stuff on in the background. It wasn't distracting anyone, and I went through like 800 episodes
Jeez.
in I want to say like 3 months.
It did. It didn't take you that
3 or 4 months. No, it did
long.
not. But I went apeshit on that. I went nuts with it. Watched all of it, and I watched it dubbed, which is where
what was the turning point
the
for
AI
you?
will take it.
Like, what was the I'm locked in? Like, this is.
Oh, I mean, I was hooked pretty quickly because the premise was really interesting for me, and it wasn't edgy. Like Zoro's edgy, but he's also like a well written character, and he's fun. I also Chris Sabat, like man, the voice actors for the dub are incredible. Chris Sabat is amazing, and I know everybody loves Frankie, but like Frankie in the English dub, the dub is his vibe for Frankie instead of being like the weird pervy kind of character into like being the beach bro, like Patrick Seitz. Amazing. I love which is why I've got the shirt and I've got that. Like, Frankie's my favorite Straw Hat, hands down. So if there was a lock in where I locked a second lock, or probably the third lock actually was Frankie. Second lock was Bon Clay, Mr. Two.
Yo, big major crowd favorite on Mr. Two. People love Bon Clay.
I have this thing where I absolutely just adore the like gregarious, like flamboyant characters the most. So like I love Mr. Two is my favorite. Pori Pori Prisoner is my favorite character in One Punch Man. There's just something about that like super powered like
one of my favorite
crazy character.
One of my favorite villains of all time in anime is this character called Papillon, right? Or Papillon. I don't know how to. I think it's Papillon because he's French.
It sounds French, yeah.
Or Spanish, I mean. So, but anyway, he is a majestic butterfly man who's the main villain in this anime called Buso Rinkin. And he ultimately is possibly the most gayest representation of a gay dude you could ever get, but like doesn't feel offensive at all. He's hilarious and really evil. So you're like, oh my God. And he's badass. Like he's just really strong too. Really cool, funny character. If you want a good representation of what he's like, just type in Papillon beach scene. And it should pop up. And
it's always the beach.
Yo, it's hilarious. Just the way that people react to what they see. Insane. Beautiful moment.
Bon Clay is a big tie-in as to why I really enjoy One Piece, because his character, I mean, I loved his character because of who he was in that arc, the very first arc. But when you hit the Impel Down arc, where he breaks in the prison, and then you run into Bon Clay again, spoilers. Oda has such a fantastic way of taking characters that are memorable but one-off, and then bringing them in later in a way that is just amazing. And by the end of it, like I was in tears by the end of the Impel Down arc. I was so sold. I was like, Bon Clay needs to be a crew member. I was like, he needs to be here. And like at the end, they don't leave you knowing what happens. Apparently in the manga, they give you a little bit more, but like I I was so like compelled by that writing. I really thought that was a great way to do it. And like even like Bellamy, who you meet just before the Sky Island arc, where he beats the shit out of Luffy and Zoro in the pub, and then Luffy like KOs him, and you think he gets killed by Doflamingo at the end of that, and then you go all the way to Dressrosa, and he's there again, and he's like his loyalty's been betrayed, and he's a broken man. But like at the end, I remember texting Alex's brother Sam, and I'm like, man, don't make me love Bellamy. I was like, that guy was a bitch like 600 episodes ago. I don't want to go through this, but I
still
did.
didn't like Bellamy though, so.
Oh, I liked Bellamy by the end.
He
of
never
it.
won me over. I don't know why.
But
I just didn't do it.
I've really enjoyed the quality of the storytelling. Like even at its lowest point, has been decent.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like they talk about filler a lot, and the definition of filler changes a lot. But like at least for One Piece, for me, when there is filler, like it's not directly driving the plot, it builds the world out a bit, and I really enjoy that. It's not always like
it still serves
the obligatory.
purpose.
Yeah, it's not always like a hot spring episode or like some random 3-episode arc about
Kakashi's mask.
Yeah.
Like obviously his face. Like there's nothing like why did we waste a whole episode on that? But I could go hard on how filler Naruto is.
Yeah, well, I mean everyone does, So like One Piece I just think is a very well done anime, but it's opened the floodgates for me because like I've been very picky and choosy about the things that I've watched since. So
yeah, I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. I would say what really locked me in, like other than me when Luffy popped out the barrel, because there's a time period in which like it wasn't showing on Toonami. So for that period of time, I wasn't watching, and I had to like find it on YouTube. And what really got me was the Skypiea arc. So I'm already like 100.
Really?
Yeah. Skypiea is my favorite arc.
Oh, that was such a long with the Eminem villain.
Here's why, right? Here's why. So at the we go through this whole thing and we're learning about the colonization of Sky Island or of Skypiea. We're learning about all of that, and it's all because of this one guy who thinks he's a god, right? Mm-hmm. And Luffy rolls up to this guy, right? And you hear this sad story about how like they used to ring the bell and it was a signal of peacetime throughout like everything. And Luffy winds up this fucking mammoth rifle punch and clocks fucking Enel, right? Knocking him into the bell, and like it shatters the bell, but it rings the bell, and so it's just like, and everybody was so free, and that shit broke me. I was like, oh my god,
the end of every arc is like gut wrenching. It's so good.
It's so good. It really just like, and that's what I was like. Yeah, Luffy's that guy. I don't care.
I liked Skypiea, but it felt very long to me. Of course, I just finished Wano, so I can't really talk.
Yeah, Wano was. I see a lot of stuff in Wano. I was reading the manga too at the time, so.
God, I mean, it was great, and I mean, I won't go into too much because there really are some fantastic things that I just don't want to spoil, even if the show's been out for 20-something years. Like, God, it's just so fun to experience for the first time.
And like all the foreshadowing is crazy in One Piece.
Oh yeah. Like, and that's the thing. Like, Oda's very good at seeding something several hundred episodes earlier and then bringing it back. And I don't know if he just decides, oh, I'm going to bring it through, or if like he's just really good at like all that planning in advance. But it's excellent.
And that's really what I try to do that in my series, Rock Salt. I keep mentioning it, but I never show it. My series, Rock Salt. I try to do that too. I love the idea of introducing a character. For example, I have a character, Father Callahan, who we meet at the end of book 1. That's all I'm going to say there. I don't want to give any spoilers. But when you learn who he is or what he is, it gets referenced again later, and now it's with a different thing, and now you're tying all of this stuff in together. And I learned that from just watching One Piece. Like, just my love of watching One Piece. Not from reading the manga, but from just seeing the story play out in an animation and being that connected to it all. And I just love how every character should have a purpose that you bring in. If you're gonna name a character, that character needs to serve a purpose. And if its purpose wasn't served when you first introduced them, you need to make sure you bring them back so they can serve that purpose, whatever that is. And I love how Oda does that. Like every character that has a name in One Piece, like they mean something to the story. They may not get screen time. Like Bon Clay didn't get a lot of screen time, but was really important to what was going down in Impel Down.
Mm-hmm. And I will say when he does unique characters, he does them very well too. I will say his young woman art does leave something to be desired. I've seen memes about it where it's like they take the eyes, nose, and mouth off of every character, and it's like it just shows all of the faceless heads with hair, and it's like attach the face to the head that it belongs to, and it's really hard because they're all just basically the same body type, but like. I mean, later on, like, so Big Mom is one of my favorite designs for villains I've ever seen in my life. It's like Studio Ghibli and Disney had an absolute fucking nightmare and made this amazing character. Brilliant. Like, the first time you meet her, she's doing a sing-along with a bunch of soul-infused, like, inanimate objects. And you're sitting there and it's like, this is one of the warlords that's like, a murderous psychopath. And then when you see her later, yeah, she absolutely is. And it's so well done because you still love her. And her backstory is absolutely fucked. And it left me with a lot of theories about how Blackbeard got Whitebeard's powers. You and I could talk about that at some point. But like,
yeah, man, it's pretty crazy.
There's some really cool shit in One Piece that like I just get real amped up about.
And
but
it just keeps getting better, man. Like
it does, it really does.
And for Oda to come out and say like, oh, so I know you guys talked about filler. The real story is starting now. I was like, the real story? It has not lied. It like everything that is happening now makes what I watched as a kid like just it's still great what I watched as a kid, but what's going on now, the quality, the animation, the writing, all of it's just like
the animation quality. The animation quality went crazy.
Yo, they're going hard right now, and that really pulls it all together when we're talking about a piece of media that most people consume only the animation of. So it's good that they're finally upping that, and it's
that's the only thing that I've got a problem with is since I'm a filthy dub peasant, I've got to wait.
Yeah,
I've got to wait. I think I'm like 7 episodes into Egghead, and it's like it's excruciating. I'm subscribed to all of these Twitter pages that like notify me when the new dubs come out, and I got to make sure to like not catch spoilers, but I'm catching the episodes, and it's it's difficult. But I've managed to remain mostly unspoiled for One Piece throughout, except for the time when I was playing the One Piece TCG. Some of the cards were from like the manga, like before the anime had even reached that point, but it was all right. But even then, I mean, so after One Piece, though, I really branched out. I started watching, like, picking and choosing certain anime, because anime is kind of like playing games on Steam. Like, for every good one, there's, like, 600 piles of garbage. But, like, I watched Black Clover. I really liked Black Clover.
Okay.
I wish they had continued it. I know that they stopped because it had caught up, but...
What about JoJo Bizarre Adventures?
I watched all of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Man, and that one I did watch in Japanese. Like you have
no!
The English is like a selling point of it. Like they do it on purpose, and it's got that deep sort of like Shogun Japanese vibe, which is perfect.
I'm blocking you.
And it's, but
yeah, she can come in.
So like. I watched JoJo's, did Black Clover, did Full Metal Alchemist recently, Brotherhood. So I watched that. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But Colonel Armstrong was my favorite in that. Again, the gregarious, muscly ones. Big fan of those. Also, like Sig, who he bromances with, was like one of the first anime characters I've ever seen that I could probably cosplay. Not a whole lot of big bearded white dudes in not like this, at least in anime.
You know, there's an anime you should watch. I recommend it to everybody because it's my favorite anime. Gurren Lagann.
Gurren Lagann.
It's on Netflix.
Okay, all right.
It's really good.
You'll have to text the name to me at some point, and I'll consider it.
And if you end up liking the show, right? I would also say you can always start this with the movies, but I think the movies are only in dubbed or only in subbed. So if you want to watch it dubbed,
And movies are always so weird with anime because like 90% of the time they're not even remotely canon to what's going on.
No. So the movies with Gurren Lagann are canon. It's literally the same. It's the same stuff as the anime. They just add a little more extra detail to what's going on that they didn't cover in the episodes. But it's also streamlined too. So it's weird. You get more, but it's streamlined. So they do cut some things out. But not too many. Nothing like super important, at least in my opinion. And you get probably one of the greatest ending in an anime ever in the second.
Those are rare.
Yeah, no, it's everything that they stood for, the entire story, everything just comes full circle, and you just really are like, wow, blown away. It's my favorite anime.
Space Dandy. I watched Space Dandy.
Space Dandy's a good one.
I liked Space Dandy a lot. It had the same thing that Cowboy Bebop did, where every episode was basically about nothing until the last two were about everything. But I really enjoyed that. That and the guy who voices I can't remember the actor's name, but he was Magna and Black Clover and Brook in One Piece. He's the voice of Dandy in the. I
think I only saw Space Dandy in Japanese.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is I'm very picky about it, mainly because I like watching things. I like I have ADHD just like you do, and paying attention to subtitles is difficult unless it's like ultra engaging. So sometimes I like being able to like do something on my phone at the same time.
No, I agree with you on that.
But I mean, JoJo's was just fascinating.
JoJo's is.
It's like incredible.
As soon as they brought in Jotaro, as soon as they brought him in, that was my season. Any season after that, I didn't get the like I needed that. I needed that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the first season is kind of rough for JoJo's. It's interesting. It's very Castlevania in the very beginning. But then they kind of scrap it after season 2. They scrap the whole Hamon thing pretty succinctly. But like, I mean, you get young Joseph in the second season, which was fun. So like that was where it really hooked me. But then watching through, it's been great. I can't wait for them to do the next arc when or if they do the next arc.
It's gonna be fun. I'm let's see. What about
One Punch Man season 3 is coming out soon? I've heard.
Really?
Yeah, or at least we've gotten more traction on it, which I'm excited about. I even got my wife to watch One Punch Man. Genos is her favorite character. She likes the overpowered fanboy. Actually, she and I have been doing some we watched Spy Family. Spy Family is delightful.
Oh yeah, those slice of life ones are amazing.
Oh, it's adorable. I loved it. We did that. We watched Mashal. Mashal is amazing.
I haven't watched Mashal yet, but that's
you need to watch Mashal.
That's like the Harry Potter, but the guy isn't really magic. He's just really
magical.
Strong.
It is one of the funniest fucking things I have ever witnessed because it is so immaculately close to being copyright infringement.
Oh, great!
But for some reason, it's not.
Okay,
like
I'll have to check it out.
If you're like the reason I got her to watch it because she doesn't like watching a lot of anime. The reason I got her to watch it was because I made her watch the first episode, and she just kept going because she wanted to see. She's a huge Harry Potter fan, and she wanted to see how far they took it, and they take it really far.
Okay,
but not quite close enough to be like a lawsuit problem.
That's exciting,
and it's so good.
That makes me actually because no one's ever like explained it like that. So now that makes me want to watch more. What's up, Terry?
It's so funny.
Oh my goodness, what's good, Terry? Welcome to the podcast, bro. In the
Hi, Terry.
Chat. This is Delta. But have you watched? Okay, I got 2 comedies for you. One, and they both make fun of like the Japanese tropey stuff. The first one is Gintama. That one is
I've heard of that, but I haven't watched it.
I love Gintama. They make a lot of jokes about like just silly shit, and then just like you said with like Cowboy Bebop, like they'll hit an arc, and then like the arc is the most super serious, like crazy animation, crazy fights, and then it goes back to all this goofy, stupid stuff that they do, and then some arc happens, and it's like all really important, and it really teaches you a lot about how all these characters know each other and whatnot. So it's really cool how they do that. And then another anime. This is one of my favorites. I do tell people it is a weird anime, but it's weird because it's making fun of the weirdness in anime. And it's more prevalent when you watch it dubbed. So since you like dubs, you'll catch a lot of that too. And that one's Konosuba.
I've heard of Konosuba as well.
I love
I've
Konosuba.
Had that. I think the next one on my list is the dub of Ghost Stories, though.
Bro. Yo, that's
Like,
the most unhinged. That's the most unhinged shit in the world.
So you know the story behind it, right? I feel like a lot of people know the
Yeah,
story where
like-
they were just told as long as it's even remotely adjacent to the plot, they can just say whatever they want.
My
And they
favorite part
really
was,
do.
run faster. And he's like, I can't. Run like a black guy's chasing you. I said, oh my goodness.
That one's on my list for sure.
Oh, man.
The Ghost Story dubs is up there. I also watched Undead Murder Farce.
Oh, wow.
Was one I watched. Did you watch that?
No, I haven't seen. I've heard people tell me about it, but I've never.
It's actually so. I will say the problem with it is the very first episode has almost nothing to do with anything, but after that, it's like a guy who's like a half demon and the severed head of an immortal solving crimes, like a Sherlock Holmes kind of detective buddy thing. I really enjoyed it. I did watch it in Japanese. I don't know that there was a dub at the time. And I found it compelling. I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't know that it got a lot of traction in terms of its popularity, but it's on Crunchyroll, and I watched it there, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. There have been it's the concept that nails me for anime a lot of the time. Like when
that's
it's
usually how it gets you. And that's what
like Black Clover was like in a world full of mages, like a guy that has no magic,
exactly.
which was the same thing.
And he's like whooping ass against things that have magic. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
There was an anime back when I was going to Dean College. I may have even told you this while I was at Dean, or maybe I didn't. I can't remember. But me and my dad came up from Florida, so we were staying with my aunt. Well, he was staying with my aunt, and like he moved up to Boston with me. And so when I was going to school, he was like, we got to figure out something we can do when you like come to visit. And I was like, I was thinking of starting this new anime. And he was like, well, son, I don't really like anime like that. I was like, well, this one's pretty cool. It's called Monster. And Monster's about this doctor who saves this serial killer. And then the serial killer starts going around killing more people. And the doctor feels like, had I not saved this guy, none of these people would be dying. So he's trying to like stop the serial killer. So I told my dad about it, and he was like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. So we watched like a couple of episodes, like one weekend from Dean, and then I go back and I come back like 2 weekends later to watch some more of it. He's finished the whole thing and is like buying like the comics for it. And I'm like, what is going on? Like Dad, what? And he's like telling me everything. I'm like, I don't want to. And I still haven't finished it because he ruined it for me. So now I'm just like, it was a mystery, and you tell me the end of the mystery. Now I don't want to see it.
That reminds me of my wife, my wife has been giving me grief for all of this, calling me weeb trash and everything ever since I started to get into the anime stuff. But then, I knew she was a fan of Sailor Moon, right? But at one point she goes and she's like, "Oh my God, they're doing movies for Sailor Moon Crystal," and I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what's going on." But then the next words out of her mouth were, I wonder if it'll be more like the sub or the dub of the series, like this part of the sub, or like I wonder if they'll adhere to the manga. And I'm like, what? And it turns out this girl has watched all Sailor Moon content in English and Japanese, and then read all of the mangas. But somehow I'm the trash,
That's usually how it goes.
And so like people can surprise you in the weirdest ways. Like there are exceptions for anime everywhere. But one thing I did start doing was I told her, I was like, I will watch Sailor Moon with you. And we burned through like the first 3 arcs together in like a month and a half. And it was fun. It was a blast, there are some really dated things going on in that. But like she understands that as the Italian, I'm compelled to shout at the movie, so I'm sitting there like reacting to shit that's just blows my mind. But it's been a lot of fun watching that.
The only anime I think that me and Tiffany have watched to completion was Paranoia Agent. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's another mystery one. It's about these it's about this series of weird events that are happening in Japan. And a lot of people think that it's like some of their mythology coming to like, hunt them down. And part of that was this kid on rollerblades with a bent like baseball bat. And he would show up and everybody had this vision of this kid. And then when you finally, and then it's like, and then there's like an officer trying to solve all of these murders and whatnot. And it was just really good. Really good. And that's to this day the only anime that Tiffany's actually enjoyed. So I try not to make her watch too many animes because she doesn't really like cartoons. So anything like drawn, like she doesn't even do like American cartoons. Like she doesn't like Family Guy, but mainly because she hates Peter. She'll watch South Park. She'll watch South Park every now and then, every blue moon, and usually she chuckles when she watches South Park. But it's like animations are not something you're gonna catch her like watching.
Yeah. I mean, some people it's a slow roll. Like I said, people like what they like.
You gotta find, and I tell her, I'm like, sometimes, like certain mediums, like, you can't look at anime as just like one thing because there's so many different types of anime. So you may not like the animes I like. I need fighting, I need action, I need something like that. So those you're not always gonna want to watch. She did enjoy Attack on Titan to an extent. Then it was just too military.
I haven't watched that one.
Attack on Titan's really good. If you just go and look up like the anime that brought a lot of people into animes, Attack on Titan's up there. There's a lot of people that people just recommend that because it's so visceral and it's so shocking. A lot of the stuff that's happening, it just really that first episode will pull you the fuck in, like wrenches your soul out of your body. Like you're watching this anime now. But I do have to go in a couple of minutes, though. I do want to say that.
Okay. I was also going to say I have watched Yu Yu Hakusho and Mob Psycho 100 as well. Mob Psycho I loved. Mob Psycho was fantastic. Yu Yu Hakusho was great until it suddenly very much wasn't. The same can be said for the other one I watched, which was Hunter x Hunter. I loved Hunter x Hunter.
See, I'm like, I like Hunter x Hunter. Again, I don't love it, but I like it, and I do like the power system.
I loved Hunter x Hunter up until probably. I mean, I really liked the first arc, like the whole the arc, but it just sort of fell off on like what was a hunter, and it turns out like you have no idea really what a hunter is the entire time. It doesn't really get explained very well.
Yeah, no,
but
I feel you on that. That's
a whole other set of conversations, though. But sum it up, though. Getting into anime, starting to get some recommendations. Been watching some stuff. Avowed, it's great. If you got Xbox, play it on Game Pass. Please, like, just give it a shot. It's a ton of fun. It's just been getting better. I'm going to jump right back into it afterwards.
I'll probably make my villain Thaddeus Theodore Thompson if I could find the book. Hold on. Here he is. Thaddeus Theodore Thompson, the Lich.
TH cubed?
Huh?
Like TH cubed. Thaddeus Theodore Thompson?
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn.
They call him T for short. Or as he says, those near and dear to him call him T. Yet it's kind of funny because he's like the villain and Jebediah is not near and dear and he only calls him T. And I think I wrote that to be like an asshole because like if someone's like, yeah, my closest friends call me this, and you're like, okay, and you just start calling them that, they're like, what? Like we're not. We're not.
Kind of looks like an evil Colonel Sanders.
That was
mixed
the whole
with
point.
Two-Face.
That was
Colonel Sanders mixed with Two-Face.
When I had my first artist, Timid Shade, here on TikTok, he was like, "So, can you describe like kind of what you're thinking your villain should look like?" I was like, "Evil Colonel Sanders," and he was like, "Are you being serious?" I'm like, "So serious, evil Colonel Sanders." And he was like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't know. It's funny." I even have a scene in book 3 that we get where there's this rooster and it's crowing outside of T's chambers, and he's like blasting like magic spells at it, trying to like kill this chicken. And his like underling comes in and he's like, "Master Thaddeus, like what are you doing?" And he's like, "That infernal like demon chicken or demon bird or whatever." And he's like trying to kill the chicken. So I brought that in because I was like, I want people to know like he's evil Colonel Sanders. So, but anyway, y'all, it was a great episode. You guys got to learn a little bit more about my co-host Delta, because you guys already know PJ. You guys aren't familiar with Delta because he's not on social media like that, but me and Delta go way back, and I wanted you guys to know that we also are planning on talking about more than just video games on this channel. We will talk about all types of nerd media, what's going on in nerd culture, things like that. Delta here is also a gaming developer, so when he's talking about some of these, I want y'all to really listen when he's talking about like gaming mechanics and how the industry works, because he does have valuable knowledge inside that beautiful noggin of his. So you guys listen.
It is biased, though.
It is biased.
For what it's worth.
It's going to be biased, but it's knowledge nonetheless. But anyway, from us here at Fictional, I want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up on TikTok. Y'all did great. We got 5,000 likes on it. We had a consistent amount of viewers. We got a lot of people who who probably didn't know we had a podcast, so we got some new subscribers today. Thank you to Old for this. Thank you so much for that subscription, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the follows that we got today. We'll be here. We're going to try to be here at least every other Saturday or every Saturday. Sometimes it's going to be me, Delta, and PJ, and then sometimes we'll have a special guest. We are working on getting a special guest. I'll have more about that if he agrees to coming on this podcast. It's going to be a really big thing for us. I hope he does get on. That'd be great. But other than that, guys, you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. And if you didn't get to do anything yesterday for Valentine's Day with your lover, with your partner, with your family friend, with whatever, enjoy that day today. It's Saturday. Go get some food. Go do all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy.
And next time, hold on. Next time, I want to talk about the PlayStation State of Play a little bit because they announced the Liza P DLC release date.
Okay.
And my ass is ready.
All right. Well, hey, are you free next week?
Next week. Let's do it.
All right, next week we're going to talk about that. All right. Hey.
Let's do it.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week. We're talking about the PlayStation State of Play and Liza P. All righty, man.